Hey everyone! Today I'll be trying a different type of video instead of playing against some weaker opponents. I'll be reviewing this really fun, exciting game I had against my friend Matt. We played this a couple months ago, but as soon as we played the game, we both agreed this would make a really good YouTube video. And it's always been in the back of my mind, and Matt just released his version of the video yesterday. And it inspired me to make my own perspective. And yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it and also learn something. Okay, so Matt starts with e4, very traditional opening. Normally against e4, I play the Caro-Kann, which involves pawn up, they take the full center, and then we fight for the center this way. And this way, this pawn is defended, we'll trade or something. And it's a very solid, even game. But I've played Matt a lot, and I wanted to switch things up. So even though I really don't know this opening, I tried the Scandinavian, which starts with d5. And then the idea is pawn takes, queen takes, and then he threatens my queen, so I move to the side, and we'll just play normally. He's missing an e-pawn, I'm missing a d-pawn. It's, not bad, not good. It's the only allure for me was I wanted to switch it up. So he tries to take the center with d4, very reasonable. I develop my knight, and he prepares this X-ray attack on my queen. If he were to move his knight now, my queen would be under attack. So I have to be a little careful. Still, I attack his queen. He brings his knight to defend while blocking, and I move my pawn up, preparing an escape square for my queen if they were to ever move their knight. So he does that move, and the normal move is to move back to c7, but I figured, I think I like this better because I'm pressuring this pawn, I'm pressuring this pawn. It's going to be a bit of trouble for him to protect both of them. So he takes my knight with check, so I have to recapture. I decide to recapture this way because if I were to take this way, then once I castle, there would be no pawns guarding my king from attacks on this file. Also, it opens up my bishop, which might want to get in the game soon. He gives me an annoying check, and I block with my bishop. He queenside castles, which I was not expecting. But now his idea is, okay, your king is weak. I want to bring in my rook very quickly. And the queenside castling is the fastest way for him to bring in a rook. I just go about developing, and again, he brings in his rook, threatening checkmate in one. So if I were to do something like, say, take his knight, he just plays this and I lose. Obviously, I can't allow that. So I bring my bishop back to block. And now, the nice thing is I'm able to castle. Before, if I didn't have this block, if I, say, defended the bishop again, I still wouldn't be able to castle because my king and queen both need to defend this bishop. It has two attackers, and I need two defenders. So after something like bishop b4, he adds on another attacker, and I end up in a lot of trouble. So I really didn't want this. Made sure to block with my bishop. And it also has the added benefit of eyeing this pawn. Right now, I can't actually take the pawn. First off, because I would get checkmated, but also because, say, he played some random move, I take. He has pawn b3, and my bishop has nowhere to go. So then he'll be able to walk his king over and gobble it up. So yeah, these are all things I'm thinking about in the back of my mind. He does play this random move and I castle, right? Remember, it's safe now that this bishop is no longer under attack. He brings up his queen. I don't fully see what he's going for. I'm really tempted to just play something normal like moving my pawn up, but I saw something nicer. What I saw was, oops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. Alright, so first I bring in my rook, thinking, okay, he can move his queen up, but as long as his queen is on this file, I can move my bishops away, and then his queen will be under attack. So he has to be very careful. So he moves his queen out of the way. I don't really get this choice of a square. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Queen d3 is more natural. This is also a little dangerous because my bishop is eyeing it. So if I were to ever move up this pawn, then his queen would be under attack again. And still, he doesn't really have any tangible threats against me. He only has one attacker. This knight has no way to assist in the attack because of this important pawn. His bishop also can't really participate. So for now, I'm not too worried. And then I play the very nice bishop takes. And here, Matt thought I had blundered.
Took on a2. I saw him play this move, and I thought that he had blundered because I played b3. And I'm like, I'm going to win your bishop after I move my king over and take it. At the very least, move my king over and you win a pawn for it, but I win a bishop. So I'm feeling happy.
So yeah, he thinks he's doing great. But, oh Matty boy, after he plays pawn b3, planning to trap my bishop, I have the very nice bishop a3, putting his king in check. The bishops guard both of these squares, so there's no way for the king to advance and take my light squared bishop. Instead, the king has to go here, which is absolutely tragic. First off, the pawns on his queen side, which are guarding his king, are disappearing one by one. And secondly, his king is in the center, which means it's very, very susceptible to attack. At this point, I think I'm crushing it. I think I'm absolutely going to win without a doubt. I just need to not mess up. He has very few attacking chances. I have all my pieces getting ready to attack his king. And it turns out there's a really, really funny line. If you'll notice right now, the king has no squares. It can't go here, can't go here. So if I were able to put the king in check right now, it would be checkmate. There's no way to do that, but I can threaten checkmate by taking this pawn with my queen. The idea is if he doesn't address it, then I'll play my queen down, he'll block with this bishop, and this is checkmate. So he would have to take my queen, which is obviously very natural. But if he takes my queen, remember the king has no squares. If I can put the king in check, it's checkmate. So bishop takes b3, checkmate. Sacrificing the queen, I'm down basically 9 points of material. And this is a very quick end. There would be no YouTube video about it, but I would be very, very proud of myself. Unfortunately, I did not see this. Instead, my idea was, okay, right now we both have rooks in the center fighting for this important file. So why don't I take, because his rook can't access this file anymore. So he's forced to either take with his king, which is terrible because then I can bring my rook in, the king has to go back, and then I'll have time to bring my queen in, my knight. Everything will be very dangerous. So obviously he understands this. He doesn't want to bring his king there. So he brings his knight back, which is also good for me because, look, now all of his pieces are on the back row. It's very hard for him to develop, and still I'm very happy with how things are. Okay, and now I take the pawn. Remember, if I took with queen, it would be checkmate. Unfortunately, I still didn't see it. Instead, I take with my bishop, and the idea is if he recaptures, then I'm doing super well. The queen, the engine says I'm up 6 points of material, and it's because I have queen takes b3, king is forced to e2, and then we check with our rook. He's forced to block with his bishop, and then we can. All of his pieces are tied down. His knight cannot move. This is guarded. His bishop has no squares, his rook has no squares. The only piece that can move is his queen, and it's blocked by this pawn. So I can very slowly, very methodically just hop my knight in. He'll try to activate his queen, activate my bishop, and yeah, just look, his king is completely in the open. All of my pieces are getting ready to attack. Life is really good. So Matt sees that this is very dangerous if he were to take, even though I lose a bishop. So instead, he plays this genius move. After he played it, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a fool. And it's not just that it guards this pawn. It also threatens checkmate, almost. If I were to just blindly, let's say just move a pawn, then he has queen takes, the king can only go here, queen check here, king has to go up, and he wins my rook. And suddenly I'm completely lost. So I have to address his threat. And I play the very simple g6. Right? Blocks the bishop, so now there's only one attacker on this pawn. And I'm like, alright, he got me. I'm sad. But, you know, I think we still have good chances. His king is still in the open. I'm going to lose this bishop probably. And things aren't as great, but life goes on. I'll figure a way out. He takes my bishop, as expected. And here I was really debating whether I should take with the queen or not. I spent a long time thinking about it. And the pro of it is, you know, we get a free pawn. He'll drop his bishop back, and I don't know, maybe we can keep on pressuring him with like queen a2. But suddenly he's completely defended his king. There's no real way for me to attack, and soon he'll bring his knight out, his rook out, and I'm not really clearly winning at all anymore. So instead I play a much worse move, which I thought was genius. I play c5. The idea of c5 is my knight is really sad right now. It can't go here because of this pawn. It can't go here because of this pawn. Can't go here because of the queen. Can't go here because of this pawn. So I want to pave the way and also open up the center a little more so that I can attack with my rook. I thought I was a genius for playing this. The computer absolutely hates it. Matt made fun of me for it in his video. And yeah, in reality, he can basically ignore it or play even bishop c4, just putting a lot of pressure on my pieces. But yeah, I play knight c5. He chooses to ignore it, which I'm like, okay. I guess he's trying to attack my queenside, but I don't really see what his threat is. I think he's a bit slow with his attack. So I just ignore it. And here is what Matt had to say about his move.
And especially, you know, when you're down, when you feel like you're losing, you play more risky moves, more strange moves, because you're kind of like, well, if I'm losing, then might as well lose in an interesting way, right? But I just completely did not see bishop c4 and how good it is.
Yeah, so basically, it turns out from his perspective, he also didn't have a clear plan, but he figured he was losing, so he might as well just go crazy, throw his pawns at me, and hope that it worked, which is very valid. When you're losing, you want to generate counterplay. And yeah, these pawn moves are pretty good. But in reality, I think my attack is just much faster, and I'm feeling pretty good right now. Again, queen takes b3 is still the best move. But I wanted to carry through with my plan of bringing my knight into the game. So I went ahead and took the pawn so that now my knight can hop in. He continues with his attack, and I figure, whatever, he can have it. I guess his threat is if pawn takes, then queen here, he threatens mate in one. But in my mind, I have a knight protecting it right now and a queen protecting it. So there's no way in the near future for him to take his pawn. And in the meantime, I can attack much more quickly than he can. So I ignore it and bring my rook in. And before this move, when I made this move, it's because, first off, I mean, it looks kind of aesthetic. I would think that a rook here would be a little more natural, because just this square is guarded. There's no piece on this square. There's not much I'm threatening. But I realize right now that this rook is completely undefended. So if I could say attack it on this light diagonal, then I might be able to win it. If I were to just move my queen here, attack it, then he moves his king out of the way, his rook out of the way, and nothing's happening. But I noticed something else. I noticed that if I were to take on this pawn, obviously he's going to block with his bishop. And if I could play queen check here, attacking his king and his rook, he would have no way to defend his rook. He would have to move his king, and in that meantime, I would win his rook. However, I can't do that right now because if my queen were to get here, it's defended by the knight. So, what can I do? Well, my other idea, or the other thing I notice is if I can add another attacker, then after bishop here, I can play rook takes, knight takes, and then hop my queen over here. Now the knight is no longer defending because it had to take back the rook. And then I end up winning a rook for free. And yeah, so Matt doesn't see it. He's just like, what an idiot. Just making a rook move, and now I'm going to checkmate him. Ha 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 ha. But I carry through with my plan. Queen check, bishop blocks, and then rook takes, knight takes, boom. And here I think I'm a god. Take the rook, king has to go up, and I'm clearly, indisputably winning. It turns out I had an even better move. After knight blocks here, I have mate in 4 with the unbelievable, very calm, very patient move that I would never see in a million years. Pawn to d3. Amazing. The idea is the knight cannot move. I'm threatening checkmate in 1. Sorry, checkmate in 2. The pawn guards this square, so this becomes the only escape square. Just unbelievably calm, and all this havoc and mayhem, you just move a pawn up. And yeah, so their best defense is queen h6 to help guard this square. And then we'll play queen b1 check. They block with their bishop. And then queen takes knight. Now the king is forced to e1, and now because the bishop is gone, we have checkmate. Unbelievable. So really, really pretty. Unfortunately, I didn't see it, but I still won a rook. You can't complain. I actually played it now, but obviously in the wrong move order. My thought was, I'm winning so much right now that he can just take this pawn. But my idea is this way I can bring my queen into the game, and hopefully, now that his king is completely in the center of the board, I'll just be able to checkmate him or win some material, or even just force a queen trade. When you're up material, what you want to do is trade everything you have, so eventually you're left with only some extra pawns versus a lone king, which is a very easy checkmate after you promote your pawns to a queen. So I give the check, he blocks. I take the pawn and also ask him if he wants to queen trade, which is obviously going to be good for me, as I mentioned. He accepts it, which, yeah, I was surprised by, but, it's what he did. So I take back, he attacks my knight, I hop out of the way, and he attacks my bishop. And at this point, my plan is very, very clear. One, I would love to trade off these pieces, but in any event, I have 1, 2, 3 extra pawns. So all I'm going to do is march these pawns down the board, make an extra queen, and win that way. And meanwhile, Matt's plan is to trick me Knights are very, very tricky. They can fork your pieces and win them for free. And I'm really, really bad at spotting those knight moves. So I'm fully aware the game isn't won yet. At this point, we're also quite low on time. So we're playing quite quickly. So I'm not thinking too deeply. I'm just trying to play moves that aren't bad. So he shuffles his knight around. I keep advancing my pawns. Like I said, he brings his king in. I bring my king in. He advances his king. I move my knight, give him check. He attacks my knight. And here my idea is push the pawn. If king takes, then we have this fork attacking his king and bishop. So when the king runs away, we win his bishop for free. So he can't take my pawn. And because he can't take my pawn, if he does nothing, then I could play knight here, defending the pawn, knight here. You know, I'm looking pretty comfortable. So yeah, I do that. But he attacks my pawn, and now it's being attacked twice, defended on 0 times. Even knight here wouldn't be enough. So I get nervous, and I block with my pawn. Still, I'm doing very well for myself. He attacks my pawn, I block it. He checks me, I move. And then he plays this very, very scary move. His king is attacking my knight right now, and he can't take it because my king is guarding. But if this knight were to move, he would have 2 attackers. I would only have 1 defender, and life would be kind of hard. So I get scared. I ask him, please, 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 trade bishops with me so I don't have to worry about this. He says, no, I would never do that. Why would you even consider offering me that? And then I run back and try to defend my knight. But then here, this is a huge blunder in reality, because Matt finds this very, very nice move, knight c6. The idea is it attacks the bishop once. I can't defend it because this knight is also under attack twice. So if I were to defend it, he has knight takes, king takes, and then bishop takes, and I've lost a knight. So I say, all right, well played, man. Oh, actually, that is what ended up happening in the game. I think I was very low on time, and in reality, I should have tried to save at least 1 piece instead of giving away both of them. Because now we're completely even on material, but he has this super strong bishop. All my pawns are on light squares, so he could play even like bishop here, take, take, take. It would be very bad for me. And yeah, so his plan is simple. He's gonna eat up all my pawns, while I have to advance these pawns before he gets his queens. So I start advancing my pawns. He advances his own, and Matt plays this very annoying bishop move, because now I can't advance because he'll take my pawn, and I can't. First off, I'm in check. He'll take my other pawn, and I still can't advance because he guards both advancement squares. So after this annoying bishop move, I have to bring in my king to get here and then support this move. But this is very slow, and in the meantime, Matt can just march his pawn down. So that's what he does. I bring my king up, like I said. Pawn here. We're super low on time. The computer says he's up 58 points, which is, yeah, it means it's unwinnable for me. I was fully expecting bishop takes, king takes, pawn up, queen, queen, queen check. The king is forced onto this, and then queen check. King is forced to run, and now he takes my queen. And look, his king can just gobble up my last pawn. It's near all of the play. My king is completely out of the game. He'll just make a queen and checkmate me. So here I'm like, damn, I really bungled this one up. But we were, again, really, really, really low on time and just frantically moving. And for some reason, Matt just continues advancing his pawn. So I'm like, okay, I'll take the free bishop. He gets a queen, I get a queen. And here I'm feeling pretty good. Look how close my pawn is to advancing. His pawn is very, very far. Life is good. I might have 2 queens at some point in this game. So his idea is to just check me into oblivion. try to stop this pawn from advancing and just never let me escape. So he gives me a bunch of checks. I keep running around. Eventually, I know that with a queen on the board, I can reach a point where he can't give me any more checks. So I keep running. He keeps checking me. And at this point, he has no more checks. So I'm very happy. I give him one check of my own, thinking if he blocks, then I take, and we'll have another queen. Obviously, he doesn't do that. So I advance my pawn. He moves his queen to somewhere where he thinks he might be able to check me. I give him a check of my own while bringing my queen closer to my king, with the idea that if he gives any check in the future, my queen will be able to defend. So he moves out of the way. I move my king out of the way so I can get a queen. He checks me, and I push up my pawn, which simultaneously defends me and gets the extra queen. And clearly he can't take because now this is completely winning. So here I'm ecstatic. I'm like, oh my god, I'm the best. This game is so easy. I just have the gift. I'm like, okay, whatever. He'll just check me. Doesn't matter. And it turns out this queen move is a huge blunder. I didn't even think twice about it. Any other move would have been completely fine, except this queen move. Because, say if I made any other move, queen blocks this way. After check, here, check, here. Yeah, I put him in check and also attack his queen, so he's forced to queen trade. Anything else would have been completely fine, but the move I played, loses me the game. Because now he has queen check, I block, but now I open up this square. Queen check, I block, now I open up this square. Queen check, I block, this square is opened again. And here I was so sad. Here's what Matt has to say about it.
And we were like kind of talking.
Well, I can't find it. But basically he said at this point Daniel was very sad, very frustrated. And it's true. I was literally begging him to stop and to just trade queens out of the kindness of his heart because I have an extra queen. He should do it. I deserve it. But obviously he doesn't. He continues checking me and there's no way for me to escape. So at this move, we've reached this position 3 times, which means in chess, it's an automatic draw. Super wild game. I missed 2 checkmating opportunities. Matt missed an easy win with bishop takes pawn. Overall, yeah, a lot to be learned, but super fun. Thanks for watching.